Are you looking for peace of mind at your doorstep? Look no further. With the Blink Video Doorbell, your home's entrance is always within your control. Check out the link in the video description to learn more and get your Blink Video Doorbell on Amazon. Your home is in your hands.
Opinion polls are now consistently predicting the next election will be closer than that of 2022, so the chances of a hung parliament have risen sharply. The likelihood is growing that the Greens and the Teal Independents will decide which major party forms government for the next 3 years, Anthony Albanese's Labour Party, or the coalition led by Peter Dutton. With Labour likely to win more seats than the coalition, a hung parliament would see the Greens become either a formal partner in government as they were under the Gillard government, or a strong third party with the power to dictate terms to a weakened Labour administration. The implications for national policy are enormous given the Greens' agenda to radically alter the way the economy operates, how climate change should be addressed, and even the way Australia should respond to the pro-Palestinian movement. If a re-elected Albanese government lacks the numbers to govern on its own terms, it will be almost impossible to resist concessions to the Greens on some or all of these fronts. If Albo doesn't strike a deal and tries to push through, his very survival would depend on crossbenchers not supporting a vote of no confidence which would trigger another election, perhaps just weeks later. Given the fragile state of the Australian economy and the challenges voters are facing dealing with cost of living pressures, such volatility in Canberra risks making a bad situation even worse. So how did we get here? Why are the chances of a hung parliament on the rise? And what are some of the policy particulars that could be legislated if the Greens get their hands on the levers of power? This week's news poll has the coalition trailing 49 to 51% on two-party preferred terms, a margin that has been replicated a number of times this year already. The latest Freshwater poll reversed that result, putting the coalition in front 51 to 49 for the first time under Peter Dutton's leadership. If that were borne out on election day, Labour would lose seats, given that it won the last election with 52.13% of the two-party vote, and there have since been unfavourable electorate redistributions in WA and the East Coast. At the 2022 election, Labour only won a slender parliamentary majority with that vote, securing 77 seats in the 151-member House of Representatives. While it also picked up an extra seat at the subsequent Aston by-election, that had been negated by the abolishment of the seat of Higgins, which it holds. Simply put, if Labour goes backwards it loses its majority, meaning that it becomes reliant on the crossbench to form a government. But the Liberal/National coalition only won 58 seats at the last election, losing 7 once-safe seats to the Teals. The Liberals are hopeful of regaining some of them, but that would buck the broad trend towards smaller parties and independents. Indeed, there is a real prospect of further major party seats falling to new independents, increasing the size of an already large crossbench. The current crossbench is already the largest in Australian electoral history. The trend away from the big parties makes it hard to see the coalition picking up anywhere near enough seats to surpass Labour and thereby have first right to try to form a workable government with minor party/independent support. Labour goes into the next election with 20 more seats than the coalition has, which is why a close election, as the polls predict, is more likely to see it remain in government, albeit presiding over a hung parliament. Assuming that existing crossbench MPs retain their seats, notwithstanding the challenges of redistributions, the Teals do hold more seats than the Greens, 7 to 4. But if Labour loses its majority only narrowly, it may only need the support of the Greens to stay in office. The polls suggest that's the most likely scenario, which would increase the bargaining power of Greens leader Adam Bant after the election. Striking a deal with the Greens would be more straightforward as they are a single party, whereas the Teals are independents that may broadly share a viewpoint on climate change but are at odds on other issues. They would not negotiate as a collective, so trying to get their committed support for a minority government would be like herding cats. Plus, the power of the Greens in the Senate, where they are just 2 seats short of Contro.